Good morning, Alan. So nice to see you here. You in Belgium, in Flanders, this beautiful country, and myself in Munich, in the south of Germany. And I think you have something to do with Germany too. I left in '68 from Ghent, from my Flandern homeland, and you stayed there. But you have a lot of things to tell us about your family, about this tragic, sad situation, and you have so beautiful stories or so emotional. So please, Alan, I'm so happy to have you here, and tell me what you have to tell us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Marie, for this opportunity that I can tell the story of my family, especially of my mother. It's very important that people know this story, that people know all over the world that this is from every era and day, this is from every time, and it's especially known that what war can do with people, but also the children of those people. So my mother was born in 1925, and my father was born in 1923. I'm a child of the resistance. My mother was about 16 when she entered the resistance because her brother was already active as a resistance leader from a partisan group that was stationed in and about around Bruges. When I asked her what I have to tell about my mother, I knew she was in the resistance. I knew what happened to the family, but she never, ever, ever talked about it. My mother never took us close. She never said us. She loved us, but she was like a lioness for us. She really wanted to protect us in every way. Sometimes I didn't even understand as a child why I couldn't receive friends at home. She didn't trust anybody. When she was 88, she became very ill. She had breast cancer, and she was terminal, and she wanted to die at home. So I really wanted to do that for her. So I stopped working, and I moved in the house with my mother, and so I nursed her. At that time, I never saw my mother naked, but I had to wash her. And at that time, for the first time in my life, I saw the scars on her body. I was so surprised because I didn't know that at all. In this picture, you can see her at her birthday. She was 88 years. The other picture, she was 18. So she was silenced about 70 years before she told her story. When I saw the scars on her body, I asked her, where do they come from? At first, she didn't react, but that slowly she started to tell her what happened to her. And this is her story. So she was 16. She entered the resistance with a lot of group with young people in between 16 and 30 years. It was a line of resistance people, youngsters who really did everything to do something against the invasion of Germany at that time, against the SS that were very rueful to the people. So their actions were very successful. My mother was most of the time was a courier. She brought news, she brought packages, and all kinds of little things, but small resistance at the beginning. The more she grew into it, she helped her brother, derailing trains of the Germans. So all kinds of interventions. At a moment, a new guy wanted to enter the line of the resistance, and my mother said that at the very first moment she met this boy who wanted to sign up in their line of resistance. She said, I feel in my stomach that something isn't right. This isn't right. And she asked her brother, she talked about it, but he said, oh, he's trustworthy, don't be afraid, it's okay, okay. So this guy entered their line of works, and he really was a collaborator who worked with the SS. So at that time, they didn't know he was there undercover for a few months. And so he was able to know who was there in the resistance, where all of those connections lived and everything. So one day, when they had an operation of derailing a train with German supplies in Alter, Belgium, they were surprised when they arrived there that it was full of Gestapo, full of SS, and half of their friends, of their comrades, were taken directly on prison. Her brother, Albert, could run away, so he ran back to Brugge, to Bruges. And my mother was at home at that time with her parents, but the Gestapo was already at home. So she wanted to help her brother from upstairs, telling him to go back, but he didn't saw her. He entered the house, and pretty soon he was captured, and they put him away in prison. So the day after, everybody who had contacts with him, my mother, her parents, friends, other members of the line, they were all captured. They were all put in prison. So my mother was first in a prison in Bruges, and then they ported her to a prison in Brussels, where she was also put, and we call them the black cells of the Louisa-Laan in Brussels. That was a headquarter of the Gestapo, of the SS, and it was very well known that there, how you say that, when you entered there, that place, it
You
would be
never get
awful.
out.
No, yeah, you would get out, but 50% that you would die there, and 50% you were going to be deported, and under the name of Nacht und Nebel, so you would never come back. So also the thing of it, you had small black cells. That's why they called them the black cells, who are about 2 meters on 1 meter. My mother at that time was 19 years old, because that was almost at the end of the war. So their resistance work was very, very good, and everything went well. When they put her naked in the cell, and there was no light, there was no heating. In moments she didn't know if it was night or day. And they had a special technique. They would take you out and put you next to the chamber where they tortured people, so you can hear them cry, yelling for help. So as she was at that age, she was sitting next to that chamber where she knew what was happening, and it's already a mental terror, knowing that's what that person before is going through, that you're going to have the same thing. So then they took out a very blooded person who was carried really over the floor back into the cell. She saw this happening. They put her on a chair, and then it starts. They wanted to know names. They wanted to know who she was working with. They wanted every detail. She never said one word. She never, ever, ever betrayed her comrades. But she had to take a high toll for that. She was beaten, so hard beaten that she felt that her ribs were cracking. She was beaten so much that my mother was deaf on one ear for the rest of her life. She was beaten so much that when she came out, she stuttered. She never was able to talk normal again. But she never, ever, ever did renounce to what she believed in. She believed in the freedom of Belgium. She believed in the freedom of people. And she believed in her comrades that she would never, ever, ever tell their names. So this has become this kind of torture. Every time they beaten her, they tried all kinds of things to let her speak. And when they saw it didn't happen, they threw her back into the cell, blooded, whatever, naked. Then you had the torture of the next time we're going to open the cell, we're going to kill you, we're going to do this, that. It was constant mental and physical torture. Often I think, even now, if I was that girl of 19, would I be able to undergo that? Would I stand? Would I have the mental ability to say, no, I'm going to tell it. Yes, I'm going to betray my friends if I can save my own life. I think it's so difficult, so difficult. I think about that a lot of times. I think about the sorrow she had, the pain she endured. I can't explain how it feels. Even now that I'm talking about it, I feel her pain, because in the last moments of her life, I looked into her eyes. When she told me that, I saw the pain, I saw the horror, I saw the pain that she kept silenced for 70 years. What then happened, it was almost during the end of the war. And so the Americans and English, they came very nearby Brussels. So at that time, the Germans decided that everyone that was in jail, everyone that was still imprisoned, that they had to leave Belgium, and they wanted to destroy all evidence. So at that time, after she was out of the dark cell, they put her in a cell with 3 other women. One was a woman from France, from Paris, and she had 2 little boys, one from 1.5 years and one of 4 years. And she was captured because she stored away 2 English pilots. There was also a gypsy woman who was also put in jail because she was from Egyptian nature. And then there was another Belgian woman. And it's a small detail I want to tell you. So there was one mattress in that particular cell, and they shared each night the mattress. And the gypsy woman, she laid tarot cards, the cards to explain the future. And with a little few papers she found, she made a set of tarot cards. And one day she was playing with the papers, and she said, I'm going to lay out tarot cards. And she said, what I'm seeing clearly is that only one of us will survive this. Small detail. Few days later, because the Germans wanted to erase all their faults and wanted to erase all those who were still in prison, they were put on transport, on train to Germany. But those 3 women who were in the same cell as my mother went away one transport before my mother. So they started one day before, they went away one day before her. And 4 days later, these 3 women were killed. My mother was lucky. Her transport was 1 day later. And the same thing, they put her on a train, normally a train for animals. So they put 60, 70 people in one unit. No drink, no water, nothing. and they put Nacht und Nebel on the train. So it means the moment you leave Belgium, you don't even exist anymore. It literally means everybody of the resistance had to be killed. And then you had she was so lucky, because the resistance of the trainway stations, they did everything they could in their power to stall the train, to put them on another railway. They really put a lot of resistance to stop this train. So about 2 days she was on that train without saying, no water, no drinks. And that's something I also had to say. In the beginning, everybody on the train, who were most of them resistance people, they chanted. They had their fire back. They knew what was going to happen, but they let them know. And that's something to share, that at that moment they felt so united. They knew that they were going to die, but they still found their force to sing it out. Also, many people wrote small notes and threw them outside so they could have a small note for the relatives that stayed behind. So it must have been very, very emotional, knowing that your last thing you're going to see is between some small holes in the train, and you're leaving Belgium. But as I was explaining, she was lucky. She was lucky that there were people who had the courage to do anything to help these people on the train. So the train was stopped. And at that time, Brussels was almost captivated by the Americans and the English army. And what happened, the Red Cross of Switzerland made a pact with the German authorities to exchange all the prisoners on the train with German prisoners. So one moment they open all the units on the train, but nobody dared to go out, because they saw guns and everything stand up. They saw SS, they saw Germans, and nobody dared to come out. And they said, the nurses and everything, they said, you can come out, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. So slowly, one by one, they came out of the train, and then more, and everyone was getting out, and in all this movement, suddenly, after many months, she saw her father. Her father was on the same train like she was. How wonderful. They couldn't believe their eyes. So they fell into each other's arms, and directly, how's mother, how's brother, how is our friends, but they didn't know anything. They didn't know what happened with one another. They didn't know that at all. But finding each other back after all these months, knowing that they survived. So they went from Brussels on foot to Bruges. It took them about 2.5 days to get there. And when they arrived at Bruges, nobody could believe that they were alive. They were so full of excitement. Half of the town was directed before their house, because everybody knew what happened with all those young boys and girls and all those families. So, and then they were so excited, and it was a wonderful thing. But then the question starts, where's my brother? Where are my other comrades? Have you any news? No, nothing. No, we don't know. We don't know what happened. My mother was a young girl. And during 2 years, it was normal in Belgium at that time, when somebody died, that you would go in mourn for 6 weeks. So you had to wear black. My mother wore about 2 years black, because every time they heard news of their comrades. It was bad news. They were murdered, or they perished in concentration camps, or they were so ill that they couldn't even eat anymore and they died. At that time also, they found a mass grave nearby Oostakker in Belgium, where 66 people were murdered, and one of them was her brother.
This is the picture what we see now with the cross, right?
Yes, this is the place
Of Seraing
where
Albert.
they shot him down. Yes. They made a mass grave. They had to stand in front, and they shot them. So she was 20 years old when she identified her brother. And as I said, bit by bit, the news came of all the others who perished or who died.
Fine.
When I asked her what happened with the man who worked together with SS and betrayed them, she said, after the war, the ones who survived, also the group, but also for another group, they searched him, they found him, they took him to the sea, and he disappeared. I don't have to make you any pictures about that. And I asked her, can you tell me his name? She said, no, never. Never ever will I repeat his name. If I would do that, I would put him on we call that a piedestal. We would honor him. There's no honor with him. The honor is with the 15,000 resistance people who has been killed in Belgium, who nobody talks about.
And that is what you want to do now. You have projects, and which you start with this idea, isn't so?
Yeah, that's right. What I also have to say is, my mother was a very courageous woman. With what she endured, she started her, like I explained, she started her whole life. Well, I thought it was more than time that I'm her voice, that I can tell her story, that I can say to other people, you're not alone. You're not alone. These stories happened all over the world. So I took the initiative. What I also have to explain, in Belgium, 8 May is normally the end of World War II. This was officially a free holiday, a paid holiday. But in 1974, the government said that was too many costs for Belgium. And they said, okay, no more holiday, no more festivity. We will leave it to that. So the honoring of Belgium resistance, everything who has something to do with this, faded away in the years that went by. And now, because I see the problem in Belgium, especially in Flanders, fascism is getting very, very high. It's terrifying to know that more than half of Flemish people would vote extreme right. They don't know this. They don't know their story. They don't know where it came from, but they would choose this above everything. And that was my motivation to start the 8th May coalition. What did I do? I contacted the syndicates. I contacted human rights organizations, women's rights organizations, people with the heart on the right place. And that's left. So I contacted them all, bring them all together, and I said, can we do something about it, but on a peaceful way? I want to restore. I want to, how you say that democracy is very important, and we have to be careful. We have to be vigilant about it. And so I thought, if I start this coalition, that we, for first, remember what happened, that we can educate people about it, so they know their story, so they know their history, and so then they can understand why you never could be a fascist. And that's what this 8th May coalition is, bringing a powerful, straight from the heart story, and do something about extreme right, especially here in Belgium.
Yes, the capacity to remember is very important.
Yeah.
We should also be able to forget, but some very important things we should never forget, and we should always remember.
That's right.
That's the duty we have to those members, those people who give their life for freedom.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful. And thank you very much for your story. It's amazing how strong you are, and how you tell us that to us without tears and with such power and courage. And I admire you for your intention, and for your, also I wish you all a lot of success for the 8th May, and I'm sure it will be an official day.
I hope so too. And with pride and can say that some political parties already put in an offering at Parliament to advise a positive result to making from 8th May back an official day.
It will be, you will have success, I'm sure, and I hope a lot of people will see this video and share with you your thoughts, and also be member of your association. I thank you so much, Ellen, for...
Thank you so much, Jean-Marie, for this opportunity, also for your kind heart, because I know you're one of those people, when you come into our lives, you're a ray of sun.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Fine. Okay. Then I wish you all the best, and see you soon.
Thank you, Jean-Marie. Bye.